from the Hereford area. And as you can see, making the most of those tabletops, which the Jeep can make mincemeat of simply because it's got a very short. But underneath there's also a high-low ratio box. So you've actually got 3 gear sticks in a Jeep. There's the main gear stick, which you see as it goes by, is the sort of long one that runs alongside the steering column. And then there's 2 shorter ones. One is to engage the transfer box, and the other one is to move it to high-low ratio. And you will find actually when it's in the low ratio, it's a very capable vehicle. Some of these guys, it depends, when you buy a Jeep you can choose. There's one going right here with a gun mount just behind, and she snapped the wire before it took the head of the driver and the commander off. And the reason you could do that was the windscreen actually folds down. It's a bit like driving a magic carpet when the windscreen's down, but what I would, if it's something you ever do, highly recommend is put a pair of goggles on and keep your mouth shut, because bees are not very tasty. Mad waving going on there from that Jeep, that's great, that's my Jeep. Okay, what else have we got? Going over the tabletop on the right hand side is a Dodge command car, WC55, I think, can't see from here. And that is often called the over area. It's got a bench seat on the back of it with a map table, and it's absolutely, it's like royalty sitting in the back of that and going around. Landwehr, that's the lightweight there going on. That's Michael Fincher. He said to me this morning, on average, a military vehicle owner actually owns 2.4 vehicles. So once you pop, you can't stop. So most people out here today will probably have 1 or more vehicles. I've owned 2 in the past, but I owned a lorry that was just too much to handle, and that had to go. Lorry to carry around stuff, a small vehicle to carry crates of stuff around a dockyard or something like that. There we go, easy as that. The Jeeps will also go over that quite easily. So the short wheelbase is the key, and all the vehicles in front of us here today have got a nice short wheelbase on them, which when the 4 wheels are all turning makes it really quite capable. Of course, the other risk is that, in fact, Richie is going to have a go. Oh, I shouldn't do that. There we go. Excellent. Those Jeeps are really capable. They can swim up to just up to where your shin is. So if your bum starts getting wet, you know that you don't want to go any deeper. But it will sort of wade up to that. That looked a bit hairy too. Jeeps can roll over actually. One of the peculiar things about them is that underneath the driver is the fuel tank. So we'll see if they're still smiling when they make it all the way around or not, or whether they're in excruciating pain. But the Supercats we use to carry ammunition, troops, wounded troops, they come with their own trailer, which is kind of similar size and similar design, and that would carry very suspension on their quite painful ride. Okay, here's the Underwood family and their Champ, giving us a wave. Hiya! So that's another British vehicle. The Austin Champ actually, it's got a Rolls-Royce engine in it, replaced the Jeep essentially. Look after, a lot of fun to drive. Next here we have a Morris Commercial with the person sticking out the gun hatch. That's an extremely rare British vehicle from World War II. Morris Commercial made some really interesting specific vehicles during the war, and they're very popular. As you can see, we've got a Humvee. Everyone loves a Humvee. Now using all the right. With a Humvee, you just put your foot down and it goes. I've actually sunk a Humvee in a river once. All the water came in through the window and I had to climb out through the roof. That was the end of that vehicle. But up until then, it was doing an amazing job of taking me around. But once the water got in the engine, that was kind of game over. But Humvees are a lot of fun. They're very wide, as you can see. And they're actually designed to fit the width of the tank tracks of the time. And follow in the tank tracks so that they didn't, so they were sort of mainstay of the British Army during World War II. Like all British World War II vehicles, it was rudimentary, slow, the engine wasn't great, it was uncomfortable to drive, but we loved it and it did get us there, unlike the American stuff, which were all sort of comfortable, with big engines in and very easy to drive. Get to your event, you just open the door and the bed's all set up. I bet there's a sink in there, there might be a toilet in there, and you're set up for the weekend. Just watch the faces of those guys as that Supercat bounces down the other side. I can't see it from here, but having driven one of them, I know how painful that's going to be. Vietnam members, followers of members, one of those would be a superb addition to your display. I have to say that Supercat amuses me. They're still smiling. It's a short wheelbase 90, so there are some Land Rovers like the Wimmick, which this is not, which are absolutely bristling with guns and were kind of used by the SAS. Great fun if you kind of want a good look. This is what we call bikini style, windscreen off. Still got, and the British made a number of types of ambulance. The Austin K2, or the Katie as it was called, is the one that the Queen is famously pictured with when she did her service in World War II. But the Morris did make a few, of which this is one, and a couple of other British manufacturers made them as well. But as I say, that's the only one in the world, and Mary absolutely loves it. She has left the doors open at the back. It's going to be hella dusty in there when they get back. There's going to be a lot of cleaning to be done. She won't mind. 1950s British phone, artillery tractor. But the one in front of that is an American with a big white star on it. I think there's another one behind it. That's a diamond potter. It might look American, but actually the British used them a lot. And they replaced, to some degree, the Scammell Pioneer, which was a lot slower. And as the tanks got bigger during the war and heavier, tanks started off at like 20 ton and ended up being, well, the Centurion was 56 ton at the end of the war. It turned out that the vehicles were, the Scammell Pioneers were just too slow and not capable, and so the British bought the Diamond T tank transporter, which completely revolutionised our ability to move. That's a Mark 1. I've no idea as to the logic as how Daimler, when they made the Ferret, gave them. The British were looking for something that was lightly armoured but very fast, that could be used to go forward and essentially either scout for the enemy or bring artillery to bear. So you'd have a commander in there that would give the gun group their coordinates, and then a box off, a fluid flywheel it's called. So you change gear, you move the gear stick before you put the clutch down, and then when you're ready to change gear, you pump the clutch and it changes gear at that point, which it takes a while to learn, but it works quite well. So the ferry of the Land Rovers and the folk you can see were all designed to race across Germany through some of the conditions they're expecting, like the rivers and the various forests and things like that. And the British Army's theory was if they produced the Stalwart at the same time, which was a six-wheeled amphibious ammunition carrier, which would be around the same time as the Bowden. Basically, the idea being if we were looking very embarrassed with himself. But there are